Matt LaFleur says left tackle is still 100% a competition, and Jordan Morgan looks good there after Anthony Belton looked pretty rough on Saturday. So where does that leave this offensive line? Anywhere but settled.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. No, I will never stop saying Twitter. It's just, I've been saying that for 7 years, and I'm just going to keep saying it. Sorry. That's just what I'm going to keep doing. The offensive line has been the storyline throughout the spring, throughout the summer, other than Matthew Golden, looking like he's going to be a star player. The questions we've been asking have been around this offensive line. And Matt LaFleur said yesterday that this is still a competition. Jordan Morgan's put a lot of good stuff on tape. I have now gotten to the point where, whatever my preconceived notions were about Jordan Morgan, my pre-draft priors were on Jordan Morgan. It seems like right now, if you ask me today, who's going to start week 1 at left tackle for the Green Bay Packers, it would be Jordan Morgan. I just think he's played well enough, and I think the tie goes to the first round pick more often than not in sports. Forget the NFL. In sports, that's usually how this happens. The Packers drafted Jordan Morgan to play him. If he's at least as good as Rasheed Walker, he's going to play. I don't think he has to beat Rasheed Walker. I don't even think he needs to be 105% of Rasheed Walker. I think he could be 95% and still get the start. But that will cause Packer fans, media, to say, well, then you should trade Rasheed Walker. No, you should not. No, you should not. This is after the coaches who were asked about this on Sunday about the offensive line depth said their depth is not where they want it to be, which is, if you think about it, freaking insane. Because if Jordan Morgan is their starter, or even if he's not, even if it is Rasheed Walker, the Packers have 7 offensive linemen they feel good playing. I've said this before. I will say it again. There are half the league doesn't have 5. The Packers have 7, at least 7. I think it's obvious now. Donovan Jennings not ready to step in and be a guard. We'll see about center. That still could be part of the long-term plan here. But you need that depth. Like Anthony Belton showed on Saturday why it would be a gamble to do something like trade Rasheed. I know there's a lot of people, hey, trade Rasheed Walker to the Chargers. You're not going to get fair value for Rasheed Walker if you trade him now. Unless someone is willing to just blow you away with an offer. Someone wants to give you a 2nd round pick. Cool. I don't think that's out there. And the only way you do that is if you believe Anthony Belton could play left tackle for you. And that's asking a lot. Now, maybe in that case, if Jordan Morgan wins the job and he gets hurt, maybe you move Zach Tom to left tackle and you put Anthony Belton in at right tackle. Maybe that would work. Maybe that's the long-term vision for all this. Maybe Zach Tom is going to be a center in a year and Anthony Belton's going to be a right tackle. We don't have to go too far down that rabbit hole here, but I just think you're not going to get the value from Rasheed Walker in any trade. Now, unless you want to trade him to Cincinnati for Trey Hendrickson. We'll talk about that in a minute. He's going to give you a 3rd or 4th round comp pick coming out of free agency this upcoming spring. Whether he plays this year or not. And chances are someone will get hurt and either, Sean Ryan gets hurt and you put Jordan Morgan in there and then Rasheed Walker has to play, or Jordan Morgan gets hurt, or Zach Tom gets hurt. Offensive linemen get hurt. Rasheed Walker is probably going to play at some point if he doesn't win this starting job. You have to pay those guys, Rasheed Walker, in free agency. We just saw the 49ers backup tackle get paid $15 million a year. Rasheed Walker is going to get 20 plus in free agency. He's going to fetch the Packers a real comp pick. I think that's the best you're going to do in a trade. He's worth more to this team here than he is to another team that's going to give him something and then maybe give him a deal down the line. We don't see those kinds of trades made very often except out of extreme desperation. So if, let's say, the Chiefs, I don't know, the Packers just played the Colts. If Josh Simmons gets hurt, could you talk them into making a move like that? I do think the Bengals are a team that they have tried to address some of their offensive line issues. They haven't. It's just not fixed. So could they overpay? Maybe. But I have gotten to the point now where I'm going, okay, Jordan Morgan, not only do I think he's going to start, I think there's a decent chance he's just going to be an upgrade. I think he's a better run blocker than Rasheed Walker. And the preseason games against starters suggests a player who is capable of being an upgrade overall. If he's the same in pass protection and a better run blocker, that's an upgrade. If he's the 15th or 18th best pass protecting left tackle in the league and is a better run blocker than Rasheed Walker was, then that's an upgrade for you. You're hoping that Aaron Banks plus Elton Jenkins, that becomes an upgrade. I said, a week or two ago, I kind of don't care because I think this offensive line is going to be good. I still feel that way. But now that it looks like Jordan Morgan is going to win this job, I think he's going to win it because he played really well. And that showed me he's capable of playing at a level I just was not at all sure he was capable of playing at left tackle. I thought it would be at right guard or left guard or whatever guard position you wanted to put him at, but I thought guard. This now gives the Packers opportunities. If he's going to win this tackle job, then I want to see Anthony Belton work in as a guard. I want to see him get opportunities. Now, is he going to be up to date on all of the, responsibilities and everything right away? No, but all the more reason to work him in as a guard. I said after the first preseason game, I wanted to see him get some run with the ones just in practice. I want to see the same thing with Anthony Belton at guard. Now, I know they want to get him settled at tackle, but remember, he's 24 years old. You got to pick a lane here. The age is not everything, but you got to pick a lane with this. Now, I do want to point this out. I went back and checked, okay, because I know people have a lot to say about what happened here. In 2024, according to Pro Football Focus, Anthony Belton gave up one quarterback hit in his entire collegiate season at North Carolina State. He gave up one hit in a preseason game. He gave up 12 pressures his entire season at NC State. He gave up 5 on Saturday. His career in the aggregate suggests he is a player that this stuff just does not happen to. Now, were there times when, yes, his head was not screwed on all the way and he rode the line from, aggressive into reckless too often? Yes, that is a thing that happened. But Belton didn't allow more than 2 pressures in a game in 2024 North Carolina State. 2. Didn't allow more than 2 pressures in a game last year in college football. 5 in one game. He allowed 5 pressures in college one time in his entire collegiate career. Multiple years. He JUCO and then played multiple years 3+ seasons at North Carolina State, and it didn't happen. I'm just not worried about it. I watched the tape from last year in particular, and I did watch some of the 2023 stuff, but like the 2024 stuff, he's fine. I'm not worried about that part. But the idea that he could push for some sort of meaningful role in this offense this year, that's gone. And it seems clear now the Packers extended Zach Tom, first round pick on Jordan Morgan. If Jordan Morgan is your left tackle and Zach Tom is your right tackle, if Anthony Belton is going to play, it's got to be at guard. So you've got to start seeing what you have there now. I could see a scenario where you give him the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks to figure this out. And by, week 3, week 4, he's platooning with Sean Ryan. By the end of the year, he's your starter there because I just think he's that physically talented. They got to figure that part of this out. I'm sure they will. Speaking of figuring it out, I don't know why the Bengals haven't figured this out with Trey Hendrickson, but their loss is the Packers' gain. We'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, serving more than 5 million people. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. The reporting over the weekend has the Cincinnati Bengals actively engaged, interested, open to trading Trey Hendrickson. And then the more reporting we got, the more the reporting showed actually these discussions have been ongoing over the course of the last handful of months. It's just no one has been willing to give the Bengals what they were looking for. My understanding of this is the Hendrickson camp firmly believed in a trade they could get a first-round pick. That did not materialize. And so the Bengals said, hey, look, if you can find us a team willing to give you a first-round pick, give us a first-round pick, go do it, and we'll talk to them. And that just never happened. So when I hear fans get upset about the price, no, I'm not going to give up multiple first-round picks and pay top of the market. That is not the deal for Trey Hendrickson. For Micah Parsons, yeah. You're going to have to give up 2 first-round picks and stuff to get Micah Parsons. I do think that is something far more in Brian Gutekunst's wheelhouse than Trey Hendrickson. But the reality is, I don't think Micah Parsons is going anywhere. I don't think the Cowboys actually want to trade Micah Parsons. So it's like seeing a beautiful house. You're driving down the street, you see this beautiful, wonderful house. And you knock on the door and you say, I'll give you $1 million for that house. And they say, I'm sorry, not for sale. And you say, okay, $1.2 million, $1.5 million. Sorry, we're not going to sell. We love our house. And then you keep driving down the street and you see a house that's not quite as nice. Maybe it's on a double yellow. Different school district, but still a really nice house. And maybe you can get that one for $750. It's not as good a house, but you might actually be able to buy this one, and it's more affordable. Now, again, this is relative, but Trey Hendrickson, and I said this on social media, if you think Trey Hendrickson makes you the favorite or something close to it, it's a deal you have to consider doing. And I got some pushback about, the Packers just don't do this. I think you have to be careful there. And I've fallen into this trap for sure. And I've learned my lesson on this recently. relatively recently, learned my lesson on this. Because I was adamant the Green Bay Packers would not take a linebacker in the first round in 2022. Adamant. I was adamant because they don't do that. They hadn't done it in, almost 20 years. I was adamant they would not take an old player in the first round. They just don't do that. They did both of those in the same draft. And by the way, I feel pretty vindicated because, and the Packers process should feel vindicated because neither of those players turned out to be worth first round picks. Just is what it is. But the Packers, they don't take receivers in the first round until they do. They don't pay older players in free agency, except Brian Gutekunst gave Jimmy Graham a bunch of money that one time. They don't make all-in moves, right? Except for maxing out the credit card in 2 COVID years when you didn't have any money. Bringing in Snacks Harrison and Whitney Merciless and all these veteran guys, older players, right? To try and go win a Super Bowl. Oh, the Packers don't do this. If you think Trey Hendrickson has 3 years, 2 to 3 years of prime play left, every contract, you give him $40 million a year, and apparently he doesn't need $40 million. You give him 30, 35, he might be happy. But if you think he's got 3 years, 2 to 3 years of prime play left, all these contracts are 2 to 3 years anyway. Like it does seem in some ways antithetical. The Packers are obsessed with the idea of not giving guaranteed money beyond the first year. All their contracts are 2 years and we'll see. And yet they are absolute sticklers for age. They want to bring in young players. They want the guys in free agency that are 25, 26 years old, presumably because they want guys in the prime of their careers. But these contracts are 2 years. 2 years and then we'll see. If Myles Garrett can get $40 million and TJ Watt can get $40 million and Micah Parsons is going to get $40 million, he might get 45 at this rate. Those guys are older than Trey Hendrickson. Micah's not, but the other 2 guys I mentioned are. So what are we talking about here? The NFL has said these guys are worth paying. We know they're worth paying. Myles Garrett is 29, by the way. He will turn 30 this year. Trey will turn 31. Myles Garrett got $40 million a year. TJ Watt is older. He got $40 million a year. Teams do this. I don't think it is out of the quote-unquote process for Brian Gutekunst to feel like this would be a move worth making. And I said this when it first became clear that there was discord here. You have to investigate trading for Trey Hendrickson, if for no other reason than the Lions are, and the Eagles will, and the Chiefs will, and the Ravens will, even though the Bengals will try everything in their power not to trade him there. And the Bills might. Now, not all these teams can, make the money work in exactly the right kinds of ways. The Packers can. The reporting is, they want a player back, preferably a young player, and picks. I mean, would you give up? Would you give up Lucas Van Ness? And if you would, what would the additional compensation have to be? I wonder, they want defensive players. That was the reporting. What is the comp? Is Rashawn Gary the best player you're going to get? Is any team able to give you a player that good back that would also want to do this deal? He's an expensive player, but a young player. Still in his prime, physical prime, still trend line going up. You'd have to give more in draft capital if you were going to do Lucas Van Ness, but he's less expensive. I suggested Rashawn Gary in a 4 for Trey Hendrickson. You're already paying Rashawn Gary. You're going to have to eat some money there, but then you can massage the money with Trey and then figure it out. For an extra $10 million a year, you're getting a materially better player, a guy in a different tier of pass rusher. You guys know I think Rashawn Gary is very good. Trey Hendrickson is a materially better player. The Von Miller deal was a 2 and a 3. In season, though, the Rams knew when they were trading for him that they were a title contender. They knew what the rest of the league looked like. They knew the landscape. There's value in that certainty, such that it was certainty, but they at least knew they were a good team. They knew the landscape of the rest of the league. There is value in that information at the very least. What is Rashawn Gary worth? I think if they could have received an offer for a second and a third, they would have taken it. That's what I think. Because that's going to be, depending on who is offering it, that is a borderline first round value. So if what they wanted was first round value and someone is offering a 2 and a 3, unless it's the Chiefs, unless it's the Packers, I don't think the Packers would offer a 2 and a 3. But they want a young player. Could you offer Quay Walker? Quay Walker and a third? Would you do Quay Walker in a second? I kind of think I would. To pair Gary, Van Ness, and Hendrickson together. Tyron Hopper's been playing good ball. Might be worth a discussion at least. I'm fascinated to see where this goes. Do I think the Packers are going to make this trade? I mean, look, the bet is the field, 31 versus the Packers. So the odds say no. But we're closing in on the season here, guys. We're not that far away from week 1. And they got to get this thing figured out. And they don't seem anywhere near, like it seems worse now than it was at the start of training camp. That seems pretty bad. So you can't just dismiss out of hand that the Packers could make a move like this. You can't. All right, we'll get you ready for this last week because Jordan Love's going to come back. What are we looking for here? What do we want to see as we close out the preseason? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On Packers are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is fantasy football. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play Yahoo Fantasy football where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Marshawn Lloyd going to be out a little bit here as he recovers from what is being reported as a soft tissue injury, a hamstring injury. Remember, he did go to the University of Wisconsin. He had the same fast guy treatment that Christian Watson got. They did the scans, they did the everythings, and we thought this stuff was going to start being behind him a little bit more. Unfortunately, that has not turned out to be the case. You'd like to see him get out there on the field if you can. This is an important week. Remember last year, Jordan Morgan dealing with injury, Edgerrin Cooper dealing with injury, Marshawn Lloyd dealing with injury. Javon Bullard, day one starter. Edgerrin Cooper ended up becoming a starter. But the top of the draft, they had all these top 100 picks. And the draft class just could not stay on the field. And ultimately, they got good production out of the rookies because, Evan Williams pops as a 5th round player. And Javon Bullard ends up being a starter all season. And Edgerrin Cooper turns out to be a star. This year, Matthew Golden, you're seeing the proof on the field. Barron Sorrell is hurt now, dealing with a knee injury. Anthony Belton just had a kind of a nightmarish game for him, but he's healthy. That's good. He's going to get the reps. Savion Williams is hurt. Had the labrum, the shoulder. Practice, concussion, back, practice, now out. You're looking at a redshirt season as of this moment. He's just like, how can you believe he's ready to play? So you want to see him out there. I don't know how close he is to doing that. But it is now looking like he is the kind of player who is going to have to be built into this offense very, very gradually, because the missed time compounds. It really is problematic to miss this much camp. These reps are essential. Now, Matt LaFleur said the expectation, almost like to the point of scoffing at the question, that Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed would be out there week 1. It sounds like they will be. Now, remember, week 1 is, still 3 weeks away here. But still, it's not a crazy question. We haven't seen Dontavian Wicks in particular in a while, and Jaden Reed was in a walking boot like 4 days ago. So these are legitimate questions to be asking. It'd be nice to see those guys out on the field. Now, we heard from LaFleur on Sunday that as early as today, we could see Jordan Love, but this week, certainly Jordan Love out there, maybe doing some 7-on-7, something that Matt LaFleur apparently hates. But the reason you would do it that way is no rush. And they're not in a hurry. No pass rush, because 7-on-7 is just the quarterback, the receivers, the defensive players. That's it. No line. So, what you don't want is him to get re-injured in the way that he was injured originally, is hitting his helmet on someone as he's throwing the ball. So that's good news. If they think he can practice this week, like they're in a good position with Jordan Love. I want to see Tyron Hopper. I want to see him get some real run here. I want to see him go for Isaiah Simmons' job. I want to see them give him that chance to be the third linebacker. I think Tyron Hopper has taken a pretty significant step forward. He looks faster to me. He looks slimmer to me. He looks more decisive to me. And so I want to see the opportunities he's earned given to him. I want to see these running backs. Israel Abanikanda, Amar Johnson. Can they show something to make this team? How does Anthony Belton bounce back? Luke Butkus talked about this on Sunday. Obviously, you don't want the mistakes, but then it's about how you respond. He played a pretty clean second half. That's mental toughness. You're going to have moments where you don't play your best. This is true in life, in whatever you do, in everything you do, frankly. You're not going to be your best self all the time. It's about how you respond to those moments when you're not. I want to see Anthony Belton respond. You got joint practices this week. Let's see it. There's plenty to test this week, especially against a team that's got some good players on it. So let's see it. Joint practices, the preseason finale. It sounds like Matt LaFleur wants to play the starters. My guess would be that Jordan Love is not going to be among them. But you never know. I think he'd probably like to see Jordan Love out there once before the season starts. Put him in like some big cast on his whole arm and get him out there on his left hand. Probably not going to do that. But there's still plenty over the next week. The starting spots, like, I think left tackle is really the only competition that is truly a competition right now. The receiver room, I would say it's a competition, but like Matthew Golden has pretty much cemented himself here. And on defense, we're not asking any questions. Not really. Lucas Van Ness is the starter, no doubt, clear. It's rotation stuff after that. The linebacker thing is a question. That's why I want to see Tyron Hopper play. Because I'm not convinced Isaiah Simmons is going to make this football team. I do want to see what they are able to get. Like, how do they align the secondary in joint practices? And if they're going to play starters, Xavier McKinney presumably not going to be out there. So is Javon Bullard going to be the guy? Is he going to play in the nickel? He played in the nickel in week 1. How are they going to get this all to fit together? I'd like to see more opportunities for Javon Bullard to play real safety, because I think he can do that. But we don't, Like, that's not a question. When Xavier McKinney's healthy, he's going to play. And it sounds like Javon Bullard is just going to be the nickel. So there's no controversy here. Packers aren't trying to figure anything out that way. Now it's just like the football sicko stuff. That's what this week is about. Hell yeah. Let's do it. That's what we're here for. Always. Follow me on the social medias. Follow the podcast on the social medias. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts to Locked On Packers. You can watch us over on our YouTube page. We were live after the game. We'll be live after this game. Come watch us. Come hang out so you can stay Locked On Packers.